I think it's risky. I think while the sector was expecting a transition back, that's quite a sudden transition, and we don't feel that the safeguards are in place around families being able to continue to access childcare and, most importantly, for children to be able to continue accessing important early education.
Is it sudden though, when you look at the figures that the government provided yesterday, that some 75% of childcare centres are in full operation?
Well, they're operating at 74% while childcare is free to parents. So what we don't know is what will happen when fees switch back on. That's right, and what families can afford. What we're hearing is anywhere between 30 and 50% of families currently using childcare have been impacted by the COVID-19 crisis, in that one parent or the other has lost their job or lost hours and lost income. And parents have been telling providers who've been surveying them over the last couple of weeks that they simply can't afford to go back to paying the fees that they were paying back in February.
So, I mean, this transition payment, it's a fairly big one, some $700 million worth. That should cushion the blow though, right?
That's really an advance payment rather than an additional investment. I think it's worth remembering what the numbers look like in childcare on a regular basis. A usual investment in childcare subsidies is $2 billion a quarter. There are over 1 million children in the system. Effectively, $700 million comes down to about $700 per child. It's not as generous as it might sound.
So what are you expecting?
What are we expecting? We're concerned about children being withdrawn or families needing to reduce their hours. We're expecting the claims for additional childcare subsidy to be overwhelmed. We're concerned about educators and their job security. I don't understand, as many other commentators have said, why childcare would be the first sector to be taken off the JobKeeper payment. And quite frankly, educators and teachers have been on the front line from the very beginning of this pandemic. They've worked right through providing support to families in essential worker roles and to vulnerable and disadvantaged families. I think it's such a pity that we're jeopardising that.
So what is the difference between what has been in place for the last few weeks now, few months actually, when it comes to JobKeeper, helping out the childcare sector? What is the monetary difference between that and the transition payment? What's the difference between the two?
So I don't have the capacity to model that any more accurately than the government, but the minister has said it's a reduction, and that there will be less money to pay educators and teachers in this sector, and I find that quite extraordinary.
So how much longer did you hope, or would you have hoped, that JobKeeper would have stayed for, bearing in mind that the government did say that it would be a full 6 months?
That's right. The Prime Minister, as late as Friday, was guaranteeing that those on JobKeeper payment could rely on that until the end of September. So quite a shock yesterday to hear that early childhood educators and teachers would be coming off that early in July.
But did you have an idea of, if it wasn't going to be 6 months, that how long it could last for, which would be a bit more comforting for yourself and the industry?
No, to be honest, I just believed, like everyone else, that JobKeeper payments would continue to September. We were expecting that there would be a transition from the relief package back to the childcare subsidy. We were hoping that the relief package might be extended, but with some changes. I must say the relief package couldn't continue just as it is in the face of increasing demand. There needed to be more flexibility. However, we were expecting that to either be extended or for more safeguards to be put in place around the childcare subsidies. There was a strong consensus across policy experts and academics and providers working in this space that we really needed to address affordability for families, that was an important issue. We expected the childcare subsidy to be increased, or for families to be given a safety net of guaranteed access. The easing of the activity test is a step towards that, but it's actually it's quite a limited easing, and it's going to be difficult to implement because now the activity test will apply differently to different families, and trying to explain that to parents and trying to administer that through the Centrelink system, I think it's going to be quite tricky.